Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable ongoing reality.
And welcome to Real Talk with the Cummings. My name is Angelo.
And I'm Lynna Ariel. Thanks for joining us tonight on this Tuesday evening.
Kind of pretty red. We've been doing lots of walking and getting a lot of sun. Hope all of you are doing well, in spite of what's taking place in the world. I mean, it's to me, it's like living in a sci-fi movie of sorts. You know, it's really
life is definitely different compared to what it was a month ago.
Very, very different.
Yeah, just going to Home Depot is kind of a journey.
Yeah, we had a little bit of mishap with our RV with the wind kind of tilt over the little gizmo that allows the drainage. So we had to go and find a new way that wasn't going to happen with some PVC pipes. And,
yeah, we just kind of tried to figure out a solution, and thankfully we got something that worked, but not before having to wait in line at the local Home Depot. And, you know, it seemed like a very strange thing. Staggered entrancing.
I've never, in my 55 years, have I ever had to stand in line to get into a store. And they were literally counting how many people were going in, how many people were going out. I hear that Walmart has like only one-way lanes now so that people don't. And you know, these are great measures to prevent people from interacting. Social distancing is definitely taking place. But, you know, there's a lot of confusion, a lot of conspiracies and speculations. And, you know, I'm big on conspiracies, but there's a lot of people that actually believe that this is not real, that this is not happening.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at your local YouTube channels and stuff, and you'll find all kinds of people. And even here in Apache Junction, there's a group that we're a part of, and people are just like, it's not real. More people died. I mean, it's like it's real.
It's real, people. I mean, whether there is something being done to move us into a different state of living is one thing, but the virus is very real. You know, we watched some videos, you know, this morning, which were very, very disheartening. Young men dying when their wives were helpless. They couldn't even, one of them couldn't even go be with them. It was like FaceTiming.
They wouldn't even let her in,
you
know, to the hospital. And he was like 42 years old. Yeah. And she's, you know, she has 3 children.
Yeah. This is pretty sad. And then you had another woman who, husband, 30 years old, and she got it first, and she seemed to be okay. And then he got it, but because this is very different for everyone. Some people can just coast right through it, you know, maybe just a fever and a cough. Other people get very critical and they do die. Well, sure enough, he passed away, and she woke up in the morning because she slept on the sofa that night, I guess, you know, still worried that it could be contagious or something. And she went to see him in the morning and he was dead. So,
you know, and I think that the president of the United States is being very irresponsible in prescribing. Basically, he's acting like he knows something about medical anything. And the fact is that these malaria medications, anti-malaria medications, are immunosuppressant. So they suppress your immune system. So a person with a compromised immune system, if you give them a immunosuppressant, what does it do? And we don't know. That's why it's experimental, because not everybody has need for their immune system to be further suppressed when they get this.
Yeah, because it turns out that sometimes the immune system go crazy, and so they're trying to suppress it, but it's not helping. It's actually causing a lot of problems. The truth is, we don't know much about this, and there's a lot of speculations. You know, I heard a speech today or yesterday, or this morning, from the Queen of England, who speech was so intelligible. It was so caring, so compassionate. Why can't our fearless leader be that way? You know, instead he treats the reporters like they are dogs. You know, there's no respect, and that's just wrong. I mean, what gives him the right to talk to people the way he does?
You know, it's a very unfortunate thing, but we saw it coming because we all got to watch him on primetime television on NBC when he was a part of The Apprentice. And that same cavalier, you know, take no prisoners attitude, I know best, I know it all, that was very much evident back then. So if we're surprised that the president of the United States, Donald Trump, is acting in this manner, I don't find it to be a shock
Not at all. Not at all. And speaking about death, I lost my father yesterday at 2:41 in the morning. He's was in Miami. It was pretty sudden. You know, he had fallen a couple weeks ago, and he was feeling dizzy and falling. They ran some tests, and they found he had a very high white blood cell count. Turned out he had leukemia, very acute leukemia. He was not a candidate for it's a bone marrow transplant, and you know, he just got really, really ill, and they hospitalized him. Out of all the times in the world for this to take place, where you literally can't travel, I didn't want to go and infect him and bring this, because they tell you, you know, you shouldn't be traveling, you shouldn't be on the road, you shouldn't be doing. People aren't even allowed in the hospital, and they send him home to hospice. Literally, they said he had a few hours to live, and sure enough, he passed away at 2:41 in the morning. And I'm still processing it. You know, my dad and I weren't that close, but you know, out of all my family, he was the one that kind of understood me more so, but we weren't that close in a sense. But it's a loss, you know. And it's like crazy times as it is right now to be living this, and then all of a sudden to lose a parent. I've only lost two close people in my life: my grandmother, which happened years ago, and now my father. So yeah, it's been crazy, and hands tied, because you're not supposed to be traveling. You're not supposed to be, you don't know which state is going to like close down completely and not allow you to get back, and they don't let you see the person anyway. I mean, if you get this and you have a child that gets it, you're not allowed to be with your husband, your children, or anything like that. So this is really a rough time to lose a loved one, because they have to either die alone, you know, pretty much. So it's sad.
And under normal circumstances, it would be difficult, given the fact that we don't have a great relationship with your family.
We don't.
But now you add and compound the fact that this whole scenario is playing out at this point in time.
It makes it even way harder, because I transitioned back, and last that I saw my family, I got kicked out because I got back together with you. So it's like being trans, you end up losing a lot, you know, and there's this friction within the family, which shouldn't be there, especially in times like these. So it's, you know, it's not easy. It's really not. And, you know, my heart goes out to all the people that have been losing loved ones. And there's a lot of death that have been taking place.
791 in New York City alone. Right? No?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think today,
in New York?
Yeah, it's like daily. There's like huge amount of numbers. And and people think this is a joke, or it's a hoax, or it's just a plan. And I'm not saying that there's not some sort of agenda behind it, but the virus is real. People are dying. You know, I don't know what pushed my father to his death was that he did have something, because they found a lot of infiltration in his lung. The leukemia traveled to the lungs, and he had a lot of infiltrates. And I'm sure, I mean, they had him in the area where all the critical COVID cases were as well. So I'm telling you guys, you got to take this serious. You can't really just go out when you want to, travel around when you want to, because it just spreads. One person can infect 59,000 people. And that's, really, really, it's real.
And when you do wear a mask out in public, you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it on behalf of others, so that 50% of people are asymptomatic. So that means that 50% of us will not know if we even carry the V, around. And we could just be transporting it from one place to another, put our hands on something, on a package, on a bottle or whatever it is at the grocery store, and transmit it. And it's like, if you don't want to wear a mask, I know the President of the United States said that he loves the big resolute desk that he sits behind, and he would not want to greet dignitaries and dictators with, presidents and queens with his mask on, because, he just thinks it's unbecoming, I guess, physically, like looks wise. But when you see the stories of these young women who have lost husbands to this terrible, terrible plague, your heart goes out. And if anything, just wear it for them, because show solidarity to those that have lost loved ones, and out of respect, just wear it out of respect.
And thank you guys for your well wishes and condolences. I appreciate that. It still hasn't sunk in, because there's so much happening, so much. And like I said, he passed away yesterday, 2:41 in the morning, and it's still like, it hasn't fully registered, that I lost a parent.
I think it's also because we're so far away from them that it just seems like your dad's still in Miami, and that, life, it's almost like when you are not able to properly send somebody off, on their journey.
I mean, I got to FaceTime with him, my sister. He was very non-responsive. They had him on very high doses of morphine because he couldn't breathe. His breathing was in. He didn't want any intubations. They got all that taken care of before he actually became fully critical. They couldn't help him at all with any kind of treatment, because he was so far off, and he's 80 years old. Or was 80 years old. And so it was pretty much send home, and they said a few hours, a few days max. And sure enough, at least I got, to FaceTime with him and, say my goodbyes through technology, which is what a lot of people are using now, because you're not allowed in the hospitals. You're not allowed, to interact with people anymore. It's scary. It's really, really scary. And sometimes I feel like we're living in a movie, it really does.
I mean, I wanted to do whatever I could to be supportive to you. And I even said, if you wanted to make that drive out to Florida at the time, we were just kind of like tossing ideas around and looking at flights, and it's so dangerous to move at all, and we just realized that we could possibly be transmitting the virus, to somebody, and we just didn't feel that was going to be responsible.
Yeah, people need to stay put, because this is one of the reasons why we haven't been able to get a handle on this, because a lot of people are still, walking around, driving around, doing things, like it's nothing. And this is very serious. And Phoebe Z says, MSNBC said this coming week it's supposed to be the worst. Said if you don't need to leave your house, don't. Exactly. And it's,
The Surgeon General mentioned that this was going to be America's, this generation's Pearl Harbor moment this week. And from the sounds of it, 731 people died in New York City alone today. And 1,417 people died in France today. So this is not something, and it's amazing because we watch vanners, YouTubers, and overlanders and everything, and many of them are in quarantine. They can't leave the country that they're in because the country has them under lockdown. Some are stuck in a campground, and they can't even leave except just to go to the closest grocery store once a week. And this is something that's affecting not just people here in the United States, but around the world, and the decisions that we make, it really affects everyone.
Thank you, Lily. Yes, and I thankfully have Lynna, and it's one of the things, you got to keep yourself healthy because one could get sick and they won't let you go into the hospital with your loved one. I mean, it could be the last time you ever see them. And I think BBC says something more.
But I agree. I can't imagine the people in the hospital with COVID right now. No one can visit them. It must be awful.
Yeah.
And that was the fear. Initially, they wouldn't allow anybody to see your dad.
Right. And I don't know how my sister managed to be able to get in there, but then she couldn't leave. And so she was able to take him home through hospice, and that's when he passed away. But at least he was able to pass away in his home with his dog. I mean, this dog was really missing him.
But at one point, they possibly thought that he had it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was affecting his lungs.
Yeah, his lungs got really infiltration really badly. Let's see here. I don't know what this is.
Emily says, not to change the subject, but I have watched a few of your episodes and I have a curious question. I'm a trans female and I seen you had a video from a long time ago and you had another trans female in your video. Whatever happened to her?
There's water under the bridge.
Yeah.
We broke up years ago, July 2014. Long time ago. Moons and cows have changed, and what is it? 228. Yeah.
Life has changed.
Yeah. That's totally. So yeah. So So since there's a lot of death going on, I mean, this is something that, most people don't think about. It's not like a topic that it's pretty relevant, and especially people that are young. You don't think you're going to die until you're. I mean, my great granddad died of 113. I thought my father would be up there, but different life, different world. Cuba, everything was natural. Didn't have the stresses that, and even though they're under a communist country, life is just a lot less hectic than it is here. So I think this is the time for people to really look into, what's happening in our lives, what actually, I mean, it's like, this feels like the Twilight Zone. I mean, literally the Twilight Zone. I mean, I've watched episodes on television that feels kind of very similar to what's taking place. Young people dying. I mean, 1 minute. I mean, some people just get it, and then 2 or 3 days later they're gone. Very, very, very fast. So this article I thought was pretty interesting, and I think it's something that, not to be somber and think about death, but I personally think death is not the end. I think that it's just another chapter. It's like ice turns to water.
Yeah.
Our meat suit fades away, but our spirit keeps living. And as sad as it is to lose a loved one, I think that it's like they're set free, and hopefully not to come back and have to repeat the lessons over and over again. So what happens when someone dies? When death comes suddenly, there's little time to prepare. In contrast, watching an older person become increasingly frail may mean that it's hard to know when the end of life begins because changes can happen so slowly.
But if you do know death is approaching and understand that what will happen, then you do have a chance to plan. Listen carefully to what doctors and nurses are saying. They may be suggesting that death could be soon. You might also ask, how much time do you think my loved one has left, based on your experience and with other patients in this condition?
My sister did say that the doctors told her he could have a couple hours or a couple of days. It was like, and it was like sudden. He fell because he was dizzy. They ran blood work, leukemia, very high white blood cell count, and then just boom, it just happened so quickly like that. So it was not like we had time to prepare that he was sick for years. Relatively, my father was always a very strong man. He was. We would get cut. It was like, that's nothing. Guajito, which is like
Country,
from Cuba. So this is just very, very unlike anything. So just as each life is unique, so is each death. But there are some common experiences very near the end. So you have shortness of breath, known as dyspnea. And he was, a couple of times that I called him on the phone and I got to FaceTime, very short breath. Towards the end, he couldn't even talk anymore. This breath was just like really, really bad. As in depression, anxiety. He suffers from anxiety on the good days, so that was nothing unusual. Tiredness and sleepiness, mental confusion or reduced alertness, refusal to eat and drink. My sister said he didn't want to eat at all.
Each of these symptoms taken alone is not a sign of death, but for someone with a serious illness or declining health, these might suggest that the person is nearing the end of life.
In addition, when a person is closer to death, the hands, arms, feet, or legs may be cool to the touch. Some parts of the body may become darker or blue colored. Breathing and heart rates may slow. In fact, there may be times when the person's breathing becomes abnormal, known as Cheyenne-Stokes breathing. And the guy, because when they send him home to hospice, he had 24-hour care, nurses. And in his last 40 minutes, that's what he was like, abnormal breathing. He would like breathe and then stop breathing for many seconds and then he would breathe again. Some people hear a death rattle, noisy breathing that makes a gurgling, rattling sound that they were having that in his lungs and they were like giving him aerosol because he had that gurgling. The chest stops moving, no air comes out of the nose, and there's no pulse. Eyes that are open can seem glassy. So read that right there.
Should there always be someone in the room with a dying person? Staying close to someone who's dying is often called keeping a vigil. It can be comforting for the caregiver to always be there, but it can also be tiring and stressful.
Unless your culture or religious traditions require it, do not feel that you must stay with a person all the time. If there's other family members or friends around, try taking turns sitting in the room. Some people almost seem to prefer to die alone. They appear to slip away just after visitors leave.
After death, there may still be a few shudders or movements of the arms or legs. There could even be an uncontrolled cry because of muscle movement in the voice box. Sometimes there will be a release of urine or stool, but usually only a small amount, since little has probably been eaten in the last days of life.
With him, he wasn't eating. Yeah. Again, this is something that we normally do not talk about. That's the last thing that a person really wants to think about. That's what's going on in the chat room here. Let's see. Okay. No, I know. I'm just looking. And Zuped joins us. Hello, Zuped. Thank you for joining us.
Zuped escaped.
Oh, escaped.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Yeah. I wouldn't want someone to be alone, though. I don't think I'd want to be alone.
Yeah.
I know that my dad passed away in 2005 to cancer as well. He had colorectal cancer. And I remember my sister calling me on October 7th and telling me that Dad was going, and I was out in Hollywood or something, and I had like a 3-hour drive to make it back and stuff. And she said he was going, but that I just should make my way back. And found out later that as she was making the phone call, Dad didn't want anyone to see him literally die. So he passed on between that phone call my sister made to me outside the room, and he died alone, without the children there and stuff. He
Right.
just, I think that was his wishes, that he didn't want his kids to see him die.
Well, Dad had gone to sleep because he passed away at 2:41 in the morning. So, but the gurgling thing was going on, and like almost like a cry, like he was like making this weird sound. And then my sister was saying, "Marcy joins us."
Hi, Marcy.
Hello, Marcy. Thank you for joining us.
So Emily says, I actually was taking an elderly lady to the hospital, and she did the death gurgle while I was driving her. She didn't make it.
So that seems to be the.
I didn't hear about the death gurgle myself. I know my dad had a very rough night prior to passing away a week before, or 5 days before, and we thought we were going to lose him then, and we were keeping a vigil, and at the time, everybody was gathered around him and praying, and just telling him it's going to be okay, and all that. And he was like thrashing around in the bed. He was in hospice at the house and stuff, and he made it through that night, and then he was still eating, I guess, and he told my sister to make his favorite last meal. I think he just wanted to have his favorite meal, and then he ate it on Tuesday, and then he stopped eating Wednesday, Thursday, and then he passed away Friday evening. And he stopped eating. That's one of the biggest signs, is that the body's going into shutdown mode.
He had that gargle in his in the crackling or whatever else that was going on. So yeah. So Emily says, I've been alone all my life. I haven't even been on a date in my life. So sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. And Phoebe C said,
I lost my mom in 2013.
Yeah, it's, I had a close call beginning last year in July when mom got really sick and was hospitalized, and we thought she was going to die, and that's when the whole detransition went back home and whatever else. But she's still around. But life is so fragile.
Elliot says, Zupat, it's hard to detach from the body when one thinks they're only the physical.
That's very true. That's very true. And as I mentioned, it's sad to lose, a parent. But the way I look at it, he's free.
Right.
And death is but one stage of our lives, as a chapter in the book. And,
it's not all there is.
Yeah. When you really learn what really is in life and not just these, four walls that we live in and just the material world, and we stop taking the material world so serious, and we realize that this is just a chapter. That's all it really is.
I'm sorry, Phoebes, that it's too emotional for you. We're trying to grieve ourselves. We're trying to work through this on our own, and this is kind of like Mark's dad. So I'm sorry that
there's a lot of static. Let me see why there's static. Here.
Unless the fan is causing.
I don't know if the fan may be causing problems. Should I shut it off?
I don't know. Does it have static across the board for everybody? Everyone's listening, or is it just for Emily? I don't know if it's just Emily, it might be something.
And Suped says, ones that cross over are still here vibrating at a higher frequency. Yeah, there's, there are so many theories, so many different. I'm in the point in life right now that I don't know what to believe
Brianna
anymore.
says she hears static too,
Yeah,
so maybe it is the fan. So, is it gone now?
Unless it's the computer. Is it gone now? Turn off the fan. We turn off the fan. Did that help any?
We turned off the fan. Does it?
Okay, so I wonder if it's the computer.
It's never been that problem.
I know.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's see here. Any better? Because the computer's making.
It's gone, Marcy says. Taco says it stopped.
Okay.
Better.
So it must have been that. Let's see here. Okay.
Sorry about
Right.
that, you guys. I didn't, I guess the
Yeah,
computer was a little loud.
Yeah.
The
Sometimes
fan.
the fan and the
Maybe
computer.
you could turn the fan on.
Okay, we turn the fan back on. So let's see.
But is it too loud?
I don't know.
No, but is it on low?
It's on low.
Okay.
All right, so it must have been. Hopefully, it was just the computer. I just moved the microphone down away from it, and hopefully the fan that we put back on because it's a little bit warm. So all good, all good. That's awesome.
I think so.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that the times that we're living in right now is going to be a temporary thing, or is it going to be our new normal? I tend to think it's going to be the new normal.
I mean, I think that people are going to be hesitant to be touchy-feely and want to gather in big groups and stuff as much as they had been in the past. I mean, because we're all becoming germaphobes at this point. We're being turned into like being, what is it, like hypersensitive,
becoming aware, and then what really matters, because I think we became so desensitized, thinking that everything's about the material world and everything's about buying things, and people live paycheck to paycheck, and I'm hoping that this helps people look at the bigger picture, not take anyone for granted, not take yourself so serious as far as this meat suit goes. So Sue Pet thinks it's going to be temporary. Marcia says, I can't see it going totally back to normal. I can't either. I mean, there are countries that are literally like thinking about even changing. Was it Spain is thinking about providing income,
a standard income for everybody, and to make it a part of life for the rest of. So I think personally that there are lots of things that are going to happen that are going to make the world a different place, like especially for people that travel and live on the road with their RVs and in their vans and things like that. I think that those rules are going to probably never going to be the same again. I mean, I don't think there's going to be this freedom of going from here to there, and other countries like possibly traveling down into Mexico and South America is not going to be as possible as it is, or as it was, I don't know.
So what's her name says the video is pixely. No, there goes I don't. Let me drop down the resolution of 480, see if that helps. I mean, there's a lot of people home because people are, social distancing, not going to work. So I'm sure the internet bandwidth is not the greatest throughout. Tackles Forever says, my doctor told me you better enjoy this while you can because we are all going back to normal. I mean, hopefully so. I don't think, that we'll ever see the normal again. But, we'll see what takes place. And Supet says,
humanity needs to do and think for themselves rather than wanting government to make our decisions for us.
As bad as everything is, I think that this is really getting us to look at a bigger picture. I mean, we're looking at starting our own garden, because you can't rely on the store all the time. What if food production stops? What if, things just really take a turn for the worse? You need to learn to be self-sufficient. I think we are one of the only species that actually isn't self-sufficient.
We were walking around the local area here just an hour or two ago, and we noticed how little is being done in order to just cultivate your own garden, grow your own food. And I thought it was because the area where we live is, not really conducive for that kind of thing. But we noticed that those who do have them, they are successfully planting and growing and cultivating all manner of fruits and vegetables in this area. So it's very encouraging to know that there is potential in growing and having our own garden. Well, of course, we're going to have to make sure that our RV park is allowing it, that kind of thing. But I think it's really great. The more self-sustained that one can become, and if you do have your own piece of land, this is the perfect time, since you have time, to go out there and plant some things and to grow things for yourself. Because the grocery stores, obviously, they're not dependable.
I mean, come on. It's toilet paper has been missing for God knows how long. The shelves are not stocked up. What happens? What happens if something happens to completely shut us down? People need to learn to be self-sufficient. So this is the time to really reflect. I mean, we've been so spoiled regarding how we live life as a species. You look back 200 years ago, life was totally different. People had their gardens, people grew their food, people hunted, people did different things. Now it's like we're like little birdies waiting for mama bird to bring us the food. So you never know. Other countries there were once prime countries like we consider ourselves to be, and all of a sudden things changed. Venezuela, Argentina, a whole slew of different countries.
I think that American independence is so prominent, and it's like it doesn't want to make any compromises. But in a time of a pandemic breaking out across the world, making allowances to allow yourself to function in a restricted manner for the good of others. And I know it's communal, it's commune, that big C word comes out, communistic, I guess. It's socialized. But if it can help somebody, if it can help people to not go out and, spread things that shouldn't be spread and everything, then is it so bad to restrict our freedoms? I think we're so protective of our freedoms, but if we can allow ourselves to restrict our freedoms for the good of others.
And I say freedom because we think we're free, but try driving a car without a license, try fishing without a license, try doing things that you were able to do before, going from one country to another without going through immigration. We're really not free. It's an illusion, that we have some sort of freedom. I mean, more freedoms than maybe a communist country might have, but capitalism wasn't meant to last this long. The fiat system wasn't meant to last this long either. So we're definitely heading for some changes. Taco Forever said she just planted some veggies the other day. It really is the prime time for planting.
And Zupet Escape says, I'm setting up to beekeep, make honey has been a dream come true.
That'd be awesome. I love honey. I think local honey is amazing. And I'm not sure who Emily's referring to. I don't mean to be rude or anything, but would you by chance be trans also? Or do you just lift a lot of weights? If you're trans, you're extremely passable. You're very muscular.
I don't know. It's really, it's really not what we're talking about.
I know. Let's try to stick to the topic at hand.
And yes, we are both trans, and yes, that is part of our, past and,
Yeah.
our history. And if you want to look at old videos and things, you'll see what we're talking about. And most people know here that we are trans.
Yeah. Timeless Forever says
that is, the shelves are consistently empty now. 6 months ago, thinking of how different it was can make my head spin.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. It's like things have gone like this in such a short amount of time. Were we in trouble before this happened? Was there a food shortage that we were not being told before this happened? I don't want to go all conspiracy because there's so many conspiracies out there and you don't know who to believe or not to believe, but something is going on that we're not being told. I can't put my finger on it, but it's not as it appears to be. There's something deeper to all of this,
Yes, I am new here. Didn't even know this was live when I turned it on. Shelves are stocked, says Zoo Pet Escaped, full here in Central California, except for TP.
What's the deal with toilet paper? What are they
TP.
doing? Are they eating toilet paper?
I mean, we can't find it.
Yeah.
We haven't been looking in every store, but
yeah.
I mean, the store that always had it
doesn't have it. We bought Kleenex, and that's actually softer than TP. You just can't put it down the toilet because it'll mess up your toilet. And Marcia said it's very worrisome how the USA ran out of resources within weeks of a pandemic. What would happen if something even worse happened here? We're totally not prepared. Totally. I mean, I know there's been this thing about some sort of meteor. What if something beyond our control happened? How prepared are we?
Yeah, I mean, if something actually fried the grid and we weren't able to get power, people would have to resort to certain things almost immediately.
Yeah.
So let's see here. How would we as a country work together? I mean, how would that happen? Or would people resort to looting and taking from someone else and just stealing outright? I mean,
and that's what will happen. Looting. People start acting like animals or worse than animals, and that's what scares me. So people, instead of getting together, they work against one another because of the typical me competition mentality that people have been raised with. It's like I said, what's happening now, in my opinion, is very needed because people need a wake-up call. The way we are living is not sustainable. It's not right. We're like a different breed. In the past 50 years, it's a different breed that we have.
It's really, there's been a real softening to humanity, and not a softening in the sense of like being tender and compassionate and kind to each other, but there's been this softening of humanity to not undergo certain tough things and sacrifices and things that prior generations had to deal with. You're talking about people that lived through the Dust Bowl era where there wasn't any food in the field and they had to move their family and relocate and start over. I mean, or, just all these different things that have taken place in the history that, people from like 1970 on haven't really had to deal with, other than 9/11 or,
very few cases of things that have actually,
there hasn't been any violence on the ground here.
Yeah, there's no wars here. There's we never even faced any food shortage as we are facing now.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I know there's some places that their shelves are packed, as Zoo Pet Escape says, but other places are not. I mean, our store that we generally shop, it's not the same. It's like it's definitely not the same. Hit and miss. So if you have anything that's your favorite, you may not have it. Let's see here.
Zupet said, I've witnessed others who are in fear of freedom can't handle doing for self.
Yeah. the dynamic of humanity is very strange right now. There's like two different camps, and people are just arguing one another, and they're not even kind about it. They treat each other very rudely. But look at it comes from the top. Look at how our fearless leader treats the reporters. So it's really sad, and that's what frightens me. Not so much about losing technology, of having minimal food, because all that stuff, you can get used to. What worries me is how humans behave.
And what also worries me is how we're being sold so many lies. I mean, when the president comes in front of the American people every day now, basically, to do his little campaign speeches and stuff, because they're not really helpful.
Not
I mean,
at all.
if you wanted to be helpful, you would have Dr. Anthony Fauci, we would have Dr. Deborah Birx, people that know something to say something other than, this president of ours just wanting to hear himself speak.
That's pretty much all he enjoys doing. I mean, I have no respect for the guy at all. He just has no social skills. It's almost like somebody with some sort of mental disability, to tell you the truth, the way that and maybe he was mistreated, and that's how he treats people, the way that he was treated growing up. To tell a reporter that he's not going to make it as a reporter because he's not asking the correct questions, a reporter that's already a reporter, and it's obviously already made it,
and the thing is, they say that tests are available for everyone, right? And the people that have been interviewed say that they were sent home and that they didn't show signs, so they didn't test them. But yet, when people want to get tested, like the people that have money, like Pink, I guess, had the V, right?
Yeah.
And she went to get tested. Of course, people like Pink can go.
Mm-hmm. If you have money,
and they can just get their tests done.
Totally. Let's see here. That's a very scary thing to think about. I think looting would happen almost instantly if that were to happen. I'm terrified of the scenario. Yeah.
In large cities, look what happened in Hurricane Katrina.
Oh yeah, that was pretty bad. Pretty bad.
Two ends of the spectrum regarding the TP situation. One, humanity is ready to wipe their own arses, and two, humanity is just out for themselves. No service to others.
Yeah, there's definitely no service to others. It's been a me generation. Selfies, everything about me, what makes me happy, everything's chasing this happiness. And, this is really challenging a lot of people. And I think it's going to be good. It's like a lot of people are going to go kicking and screaming, and there's going to be probably a lot of violence taking place if things don't normalize real soon. But I think in the end, it'll be very helpful.
And, I think also that it's not just limited to this generation, but or to the younger generation, millennials and things like that. But we were noticing when we were at Planet Fitness working out, and there was an older crowd sometimes there. And we're old ourselves, right? So we're not young. But there was a few times that we were doing some workouts that required us to use two pieces of apparatus at the time. And these older generation people were like absolutely not able to understand what we were doing, and they didn't want to do anything.
Yeah, they didn't understand
to work with us and stuff. So, we had one woman go up to the front counter to complain and basically lie and say that we were bullying or something. And it's like, people have lost the ability to work together, it seems like.
And that's what scares me.
You know, to come together in a cohesive way. Even when we were living in Portland last year, we had a blackout because a power went out and we had problems. And you went over to the guy at the RV right next to us. Mm-hmm. And what did he say?
I asked him, do you know what happened? And he was like really rude. And it's almost like, well, how dare you knock on my door type of thing. And it's like,
why are you talking to me?
Why are you talking to me? And that's pretty sad.
Because there was a day when people were kind and compassionate, and they worked together and they gave and sacrificed for each other and they helped each other out. And And I'm sure that happens in certain parts of the country still. I mean, there was a hurricane or a tornado and stuff, and people do come together and help each other out. But,
It's very rare.
a lot of times
Very
it's
rare.
not happening anymore.
And Taco says, I agree, this can also be a good thing. It's all about how we look at it. Totally. I think that we can't continue the way we have been. You know, rich are getting richer. You know, companies are mistreating employees. You know, there's people working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, barely spending any time with their family. For the first time, people are spending time with their family. You know, and it's almost like we have the slave mentality and we worry. And it's like, look, the birds don't worry about where they're going to get their next meal. We need to learn to be more resourceful, you know, and not be so dependent on the government, not be so dependent on things, you know. It's definitely something that we need to think about. And Marcy says,
It shows people's true nature, those who want to profit off of it and those who've been helping others. It made me sick to see people selling masks. I would give them away to help people.
Totally. It's just, these times will definitely show the true colors, you know. Definitely show the true colors. So, yeah, and Taco Forever says true colors are coming out now. That's for sure. And Zubed, definitely.
Separating the wheat from the chaff.
For sure. Emily says this is an all good thing. It all depends on how you look at it. You know, people, the only really bad thing that I see from all of this is the death, you know, people that are dying and people that are getting sick. As far as economy goes, you know, I think people will learn to appreciate things a little bit more, stop being so wasteful, you know, getting things that you really need, not things that you want. We become a society of want, you know, instead of just getting the mere essentials, the things that you actually need. You know,
the problem that we have, though, in this country specifically, is that this economy is built on consumerism. This economy is built on people getting more toys, more things, the latest iPhone, the latest Android. Everything's built so that it can break and then you could buy it. And then, you know, I mean, leasing a car, buying a car, you know, trading it in, buying the newest this, that, or the other. It's the backbone of how the economy works. It's based on people getting on the hamster wheel of consumerism and running and constantly running and not stopping. That's what the rich corporations want us to do. That's what feeds their billion-dollar corporations. That's what gives the stockholders what they want. And that's what needs to change. And that is what is being called out onto the carpet right now, because people have to stop in their tracks and realize that the essential services that are provided are the provided services that are necessary for us to be able to function as a society. And everything else, sports, all the entertainment, it's all fluff. It's all extra. And it's nice to have, but it's not necessary.
It's not necessary. And Emma says, I don't get along with my folks. That's our 100%. They're 100% against trans. We have the same issue. And I think a lot of trans people, you know, those that are lucky enough to have family members love and accept them, that's amazing. But the majority of trans individuals don't have that. She says that dad and my uncle are Southern Baptist preachers, and my brother-in-law is a Baptist youth minister. Wow. And Dylan joins us. Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Dylan.
And Taco.
I give hand sanitizer to the bus driver whenever I go on it. That's great.
That's awesome.
There was a bus driver in Detroit that he was so, upset. He did a video on Facebook because this woman literally coughed right in his presence, you know, and didn't even think to cover her mouth or anything. And basically he's like, you're causing problems. You are endangering people. Well, that man, a week later, he passed away. From the V.
Yeah. It's really sad. Let's see here. Taco's running, not stopping, and keeping distracted. And Sue Pet says.
Oh, hey, I took control of my body and I'm now in remission. I'm slowly reducing meds.
That's awesome. You know, it's one of the things that we were talking about. Your father died of colon cancer, and obviously my dad died of cancer in the blood, leukemia, which went into his lungs. There is so much cancer. What is it, 1 out of 3? They're saying.
Yeah.
You know, that's 1 out of 3 individual. That's you know.
It's a pretty substantial number.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, you know, what is it? Chemicals in the environment, the chemicals that we produce in this give me, me, I world that we live in. Me first, competition, money. You know, every cell in your body reads your mind, your heart, how you speak to others, how you think of yourself. And what is cancer? Abnormal cells, disharmony in the body. So that's great news, though, Zubet, that you're actually in remission and you're keeping it, you know, reducing your meds, which is, you know, definitely a good thing. And, she says, Emily.
Oh, and my dad's dad was his church deacon.
Wow. So definitely, I noticed there's a lot of trans folks who come from very religious backgrounds. Kind of wonder why that is.
You know, I also wonder why, in the face of such great danger, that people have to claim their First Amendment rights and their ability to worship and gather in large groups, where a pastor in Louisiana went out of his way to bus hundreds of people to his church service to make a statement about the fact that, you know, Christians should be able to gather to worship on Palm Sunday and all that. And it's like, don't they realize that they are really putting not just those people at risk, but the population around them at risk?
And there's a pastor in Virginia who dies from coronavirus after previously saying media is pumping out fear about pandemic. And that's a big sentiment of people. They think that the media is pumping out fear and this is a hoax, but people are dying. And I mean, and it doesn't matter. People say, well, people die every day and this, but they don't have to. If we did what we were supposed to do, they wouldn't be dying. So, you know, he was 66 years old, a traveling musician, died last Wednesday in a hospital in North Carolina after testing positive for COVID-19. You know, so it is very, very irresponsible for these mega churches, which are businesses, and they rely on people coming and giving donations to run their business. So of course they're going to want people to go to church. But that is like a mega you're literally spreading it like crazy. People are singing and they're hugging, holding hands.
Oh, and all the particles that are flying in the air and stuff, and you know, people. I mean, it's like, why can't we just use our brain and not just think that we can handle snakes? You know, I mean, people die for other things, and all they're asking, it's not to infringe on your freedom to gather and to be in a group setting and to worship the God that you choose to worship. But just because there is a literal pandemic sweeping the world, and it is necessary for people to socially distance themselves and to isolate themselves from anyone other than their families and stuff, why is it not just something that people would just obey?
And family, aren't you live under the same roof.
Aren't Christians supposed to obey the government?
Yeah, but
isn't that what they say?
Yeah, they're not. But after all that happened, then the church says no Sunday service, stay well and stay safe. It took the pastor of the church to die for them to, you know, finally say, nope, we ain't doing this, you know. And then we got Wisconsin. GOP is a death cult. I mean, they're like having people
today
go out and vote I mean, you look at those little.
They're in lines.
They're in lines, and then they're right there next to each other,
touching things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and so the governor really wanted them to just not do the primary today, right? So all he was asking was to postpone it until June. And the state Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, of course, a conservative majority, voted to not allow that to happen. And they forced the Democratic people of their state to subject themselves to dangerous situations and go vote. I mean,
and this is a state that already has 2,440 residents with COVID, and 83 have died from it.
but
You know?
yeah, I mean, it's just, it's really sad, you know, because gathering in these large groups is, I mean, you ask any other country that is self-isolating. I mean, there are countries like Argentina, like, you know, Spain, Portugal, Scotland, even Great Britain. Their prime minister is in the ICU right now with COVID, but they are practicing the social distancing. And people in Czechoslovakia, in the Czech Republic and in Slovakia, if they see another person that doesn't wear a mask when they go out, they're like, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? Why are you not being like responsible? Do you not want this to just diminish itself, or do you want to spread it?
And then you got Republicans, not just in the White House, but in state houses across the country, are actively working to make their state less safe for their hardest hit residents. People are being forced to leave their homes and go to work, literally putting their lives at risk because their unduly elected representative would see them die before passing the smooth flow of capital upstream.
I mean, the president is still looking at ending this soon. I mean, he, in his conversation yesterday, was like, oh yeah, this is going to pass. This is going to pass. This will be done sooner than later. And it's like, I don't know, but nobody knows how many times the waves can
take place.
You know, they'll go and then they'll come back. I mean, there's cases now in France. There's like 50 people got reinfected, and there's another wave that comes. That's how pandemics work. They don't just come in one swoop and then leave. I mean, it's like this constant, like,
well, it's mutating. It's
like it's a wave.
They mutate, and it creates different strains, and this is very interesting here. So what have we
learned in all this? We've learned that Republicans are not above exploiting a global health crisis to suppress votes, and in fact welcome the opportunity, no matter how many lives they put at risk in the process. The idea of one person, one vote is distasteful to them, because otherwise, as the president himself told Fox and Friends last month, you'd never have a Republican elected in this country again.
The action of EOS Fitzgerald and politicians in the Republican-controlled state house across the country make that point abundantly clear. It is all out in the open. They're showing you exactly who they are.
And we're not political people, and we do both believe that both parties belong to the same, group. Both wings belong to the same bird, and that eagle has represented other countries, other cultures, like the Roman Empire and things like that. So we know that government means governmental control, but it's crazy.
So Dylan says, I don't think that is related in any way. Half the population of the world is raised in religion. But the trans, and I didn't say it was related, but it's like a lot of trans people they come from a very religious background. I noticed that.
A lot of people in this particular country have religious influence that are trans. A lot.
And Dylan says his grandmother died last year of pancreatic cancer. I don't know what Emily.
Yeah. The pastors need their income. That's all they care about. I noticed not one church has offered any help to anyone around here. Not one.
And that's crazy. But come to church. Pay your, what is it, your 10th tithe and whatever else is a business.
Offerings.
Yeah. And let's see, Dylan says, I don't think that's related. Okay, we read that. And then from church, everyone returns to their community, spreading the V even further. That's right.
Going into the voting booths, one after the other.
I know. It's nuts.
Eastern religions don't act the way the Western religion does.
Very true.
And there's lots of wisdom to be gained from those Eastern religions.
Definitely.
You know, what is it, your friend from Florida, the trans woman who said that she relies on
her Buddhist beliefs. Yeah, very different, very different way of thinking altogether. And Dylan says the only thing the churches have done here is stream the services. Like that helps anyone. Exactly. And they're probably at the end, please remember to donate or something of that nature.
Yeah, Marcy says exactly, Dylan. They aren't offering food, shelter, nothing. And Emily says, I hope I get it. Then it can put me out of my misery. Be careful what you wish for. Honestly, I hear that it's a very debilitating V. And there's people that say, oh, why should you just get it already? So then I can build immunity to it. But it is not anything that the body's ever been interested in. It's a beast. It's going after your lungs.
I think Emily kind of wants to check out. And Emily, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. It's I know life is not easy. It's not easy for any of us. We all have different things that we deal with, but life is precious. Life is very precious, and life is what we make it. We could look at a glass half empty or glass full or half full. And I know being lonely is really hard, but when you start working on yourself and you start cleaning up those cabinets inside of you and those compartments in the brain, all those childhood traumas, and you start to make peace with yourself, then that special someone comes into your life. But if you continue to be in turmoil and self-pity and pointing fingers at others, then you're going to continue to get more of the same. I'm a true believer that we create our reality. We create the world that we're living in. Even what's happening right now, I believe that as human beings, because we're not grateful, because we are so self-centered, that we have actually created what we see before us. I truly believe that. And Taco Forever says,
and the thing is that this V can always mutate into something more lethal.
And that's what I believe, Taco Forever, that as a super bug, because bugs nowadays are very smart, it could turn out to be something from a apocalyptic movie if we're not careful, seriously. And Brianna says, Shelton, not everyone dies from it. Yeah.
And that's great.
No,
but not everyone does.
Yeah. Dylan says, Marcy, my best friend had to go back to work yesterday. She has a very weak immune system. She works at a chicken processing plant. She's HR, but it still scares me. Yeah. I mean, it's like playing Russian roulette, totally playing Russian roulette. I don't remember what it says.
Oh, I know.
Okay. So let's see here. Nurses are quitting their jobs due to not being given enough PPEs. I know, because they're being put in jeopardy, says Taco Forever. Yep. Governmente, govern the mind. Definitely. It does damage the lungs and it damages your heart. And it actually, there's a really good article. Let's see if I can find it here.
And it damages the lungs in a permanent way.
Yeah.
So that the lungs are compromised.
Yeah.
For the rest of your life.
Exactly. Let's see this thing. Okay, it says here, in the last 3 to 5 days, a mountain of anecdotal evidence has come out of New York City, Italy, Spain, etc., about COVID-19 and the characteristics of patients who get seriously ill. It's not only piling up, but now leading to a general field level consensus backed up by a few previously little known studies that had it all wrong the whole time.
Well, a few had some things eerily correct, cough, trump, cough, especially with hydroxychloroquine with azithromycin, but we'll get to that in a minute.
There's no pneumonia, no ARDS, at least not the ARDS with established treatment protocol and procedures we're familiar with. Ventilators are not only the wrong solution, but high pressure intubation can actually wind up causing more damage than without, not to mention complications from tracheal scarring and ulcers given the duration of intubation often required.
They may still have a use in the immediate future for patients too far to bring back with this newfound knowledge, but moving forward, a new treatment protocol needs to be established so we stop treating patients for the wrong disease.
The past 48 or so have been a huge revelation. COVID-19 causes prolonged and progressive hypoxia, starving your body of oxygen by binding to the hem group in the hemoglobin in your red blood cells.
People are simply desaturating, losing O2, oxygen, in their blood. And that's what eventually leads to organ failures that kill them, not any form of ARDS or pneumonia. All the damage to the lungs you see in CT scans are from the release of oxidative iron from the hemes. This overwhelms the natural defenses against pulmonary oxidative stress and causes that nice, always bilateral ground glass opacity in the lungs.
Patient returning from rehospitalization days or weeks after recovery suffering from apparent delayed post-hypoxic leukoencephalopathy or something like that strengthen the notion COVID-19 patients are suffering from hypoxia despite no signs of respiratory, tire out, or fatigue.
Here's the breakdown of the whole process, including some ELI5 level cliff notes. Much has been simplified just to keep it digestible and layman friendly. Your red blood cells carry oxygen from your lungs to all your organs and the rest of your body. Red blood cells can do this thanks to hemoglobin, which is a protein consisting of 4 hemes. Hemes have a special kind of iron. Iron, which is normally quite toxic in its free form, locked away in its center with a porphyrin acting as its container. In this way, the iron can be caged, quote unquote, and carried around safely by the hemoglobin, but used to bind to oxygen when it gets to your lungs.
When the red blood cell gets to the alveoli, which are little sacs inside your lungs, where all the gas exchange happens, that special little ion can flip between Fe2 plus and Fe3 plus states with electron exchange and bonds to some oxygen. Then it goes off on its little merry way to deliver oxygen elsewhere.
Here's what COVID-19 comes in. Its glycoproteins bond to the heme. And in doing so, that special and toxic oxidative iron is disassociated, quote unquote, and released. It's basically let out of the cage and now freely roaming around on its own. This is bad for 2 reasons.
Without the iron ion, hemoglobin can no longer bind to oxygen. Once all the hemoglobin is impaired, the red blood cell is essentially turned into a freight linear truck cab with no trailer and no ability to store its cargo. It is useless and just running around with COVID-19 virus attached to its porphyrin.
All these useless trucks running around not delivering oxygen is what starts to lead to desaturation or watching the patient's SpO2 levels drop. It is incorrect to assume traditional ARDS, and in doing so, you're treating the wrong disease. Think of it a lot like carbon monoxide poisoning, in which the CO is bound to the hemoglobin making it unable to carry oxygen.
In those cases, ventilators aren't treating the root cause. The patient's lungs aren't tiring out, they're pumping just fine. The red blood cells just can't carry oxygen. End of story. Only in this case, unlike carbon poisoning, in which eventually the carbon can break off, the affected hemoglobin is permanently stripped of its inability or ability to carry oxygen because it has lost its iron ion.
The body compensates for this lack of oxygen carrying capacity and deliveries by having your kidneys release hormones like erythropoietin, which tell your bone marrow factories to ramp up production on new red blood cells with freshly made and fully functioning hemoglobin. This is the reason you find elevated hemoglobin and decreased blood oxygen saturation as one of the 3 primary indicators of whether the S about this is about to hit the fan for a particular patient or not.
The little iron ion, along with millions of its friends released from other hems, are now floating through your blood freely. As I mentioned before, this type of iron ion is highly reactive and causes oxidative damage. It turns out that this happens to a limited extent naturally in our bodies, and we have to clean up and defense mechanism to keep the balance.
The lungs in particular have 3 primary defenses to maintain iron homeostasis, 2 of which are in the alveoli, those little sacs in your lungs we talked about earlier. The first of the 2 are little macrophages that roam around and scavenge up any free radicals like this oxidative iron. The second is a lining on the walls called the epithelial surface, which has a thin layer of fluid packed with high levels of antioxidant molecules, things like ascorbic acid, aka vitamin C, among others.
Well, this is usually good enough for naturally occurring rogue iron ions, but with COVID-19 running rampant, your body is now basically like a progressive state, letting out all the prisoners out of the prison, which they're trying to do that anyway too. It's just too much iron, and it begins to overwhelm your lungs' countermeasures, and thus begins the process of pulmonary oxidative stress.
This leads to damage and inflammation, which leads to all that nasty stuff and damage you see in CT scans of COVID-19 patient lungs. Ever noticed how it's always bilateral, both lungs at the same time? Pneumonia, it rarely ever does that, but COVID-19 does every single time.
So once your body is now running out of control, with all your oxygen trucks running around without any freight, and a ton of this toxic form of iron floating around in your bloodstream, other defenses kick in. While your lungs are busy with all this oxidative stress they can't handle, and your organs are being starved of oxygen without their constant stream of deliveries from red blood cells, hemoglobin, and your liver is attempting to do its best to remove the iron and store it in the iron vault.
Only it's getting overwhelmed too. It's starved for oxygen, fighting a losing battle from all your hemoglobin letting its iron free, and starts crying out, "Help, I'm taking damage," by releasing an enzyme called alanine aminotransferase, ALT. Boom. There's your second of 3 primary indicators of whether the S is about to hit the fan or for a particular patient or not.
Eventually, if the patient immune system doesn't fight off the virus in the time before their blood oxygen saturation drops too low, ventilators or no ventilators, organs start shutting down. No fuel, no work. The only way to ever try to keep them going is max oxygen, even at hypobaric chambers, if one is available on 100% oxygen and multiple atmospheric pressure, just to give what's left of their functioning hemoglobin a chance to carry enough O2 to the organ and to keep them alive.
Yeah, we don't have nearly enough of those chambers, so some fresh blood cells with normal hemoglobin in the form of a transfusion will have to do. The core point being treating patients with the iron ion stripped from their hemoglobin, rendering it abnormally non-functional with ventilator intubation is futile, unless you are just hoping the patient's immune system will work its magic in time. The root of the illness needs to be addressed, and when people are being given immunosuppressant anti-malaria medications,
It's really funny because my father, they gave him transfusion. He was having difficulty breathing. So it's almost like this is what was happening. And then leukemia,
encephalopathy,
which is like, so I'm like going, was it leukemia? Was it, you know?
Yeah.
Best case scenario, treatment regimen early before symptoms progress too far. As people usually don't die that quickly from leukemia.
No.
That was really strange. Hydroxychloroquine, more of that in a minute. Let's see, with azithromycin has shown fantastic, albeit critics keep mentioning anecdotal to describe the mountain promise, and I'll explain why it does so well next. But forget straight up plasma with antibodies. That might work early, but if the patient is too far gone, they'll need more.
They'll need all the blood, antibodies, and red blood cells. No help in sending over a detachment of ammunition to a soldier already unconscious and bleeding out on the battlefield. You need to send them that ammo along with some hemoglobin stimulant magic so that he can wake up and fire those shots at the enemy.
The story with hydrochloroquine, whatever that thing is called.
Hydroxychloroquine.
All that hilariously misguided and counterproductive criticism the media piled on the chloroquine purely for political reasons as a viable treatment will now go down as the biggest fake news blunder to rule them all. The media actively engaged their activism to fight bad orange man at the cost of thousands of lives. Shame on them. How does chloroquine work? Same way it does with the malaria. You see, malaria is this little parasite that enters the red blood cells and starts eating hemoglobin as its food source. The reason chloroquine works for malaria is the same reason it works for ID19. While not fully understood, it is suspected to bind to DNA and interfere with the ability to work magic on hemoglobin.
The same mechanism that stops malaria from getting its hands on hemoglobin and gobbling it up seems to do the same to COVID-19, essentially little snippets of DNA in an envelope, from binding to it. On top of that, hydroxychloroquine, in advanced descendant of regular old chloroquine, lowers the pH, which can interfere with the replication of the virus. Again, while the full details are not known, the entire premise of this potentially game-changing treatment is to prevent hemoglobin from being interfered with, whether due to malaria or COVID-19.
So no longer going to, let's see here. I'm not going to get into that.
So the article writer seems to think that hydroxychloroquine is beneficial, and in a perfect world where nobody's immune system is damaged, then maybe that would go across the board as a really good thing.
Yeah.
But I find fault in this article and in the writer suggesting, and obviously they're
pushing the thing.
Pushing.
But what I did want, and I think the article explained very well, what actually COVID-19 actually does. That it's not just pneumonia, whatever. It actually is going in and
it's releasing the iron ions.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to really
prematurely.
I don't agree too much with the medication and what it does and what it doesn't do, but there's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
So we have comments and saying that there's a lot.
Let's see. Let's see what we got here.
Tacos Forever says there will be long-lasting damage after the V.
Oh, definitely. And the depression is hard. Emily, hang in there. Supet says,
Emily, I wanted to check out and ended up with aplastic anemia. Not fun to have bone marrow stop producing red blood cells.
Yeah. Dylan says, honestly, I'm kind of at the point where if I get it, I get it. Nothing is going to stop my family from getting it. We're stuck in the same house. I prepared myself for the idea of death a long time ago. And Brianna says,
death is a paradise. Emily said something.
Did I miss it?
Oh, she said, I don't have many fellow trans to chat with. If you know someone that would like to chat, look me up on Facebook. Emily Joanne Shelton.
And if the lungs will never be the same after recovery. Okay, I think I said that. Yeah, the way I look at this, it's not, people think it's just the common flu. It's not. It does a lot more damage than the common flu. With the common flu, you normally recover, you're sick, there have been people who have died from the common flu, but this does a lot of alteration to other parts of your body, your heart, your lungs,
Dylan says, Emily, I'm not going to lie. I feel the same way, but the only way I'm able to stay alive is just accepting the situation and trying to push it all to the back of my mind. Stuff like school and TV have been keeping me occupied.
And then he says, I don't even have TV service. I live in the hills and much my folks Wi-Fi. Yeah, it's, as I mentioned earlier, life is difficult. I don't think there's a person, unless you're even the rich, as much money as they have and as much people that they have in their lives, a lot of them can be very depressed, and I mean, you could have too much, in life. This is a spiritual journey, and we're here for a reason. And we're here to go within and to figure out those things that we're here to figure out. And no two people are alike. So what you're here to figure out, Emily, is totally different from what I'm here to figure out. It's not easy. And I'd be lying to you if I said it was. But take the time and meditate, to go within. When we cling to these material costumes that we wear daily, and we constantly are in our mind space instead of our heart space, life becomes a lot harder.
I think it's really important also to take advantage of the time that you have and go outside, smell the flowers, look at the sky, look at the clouds, look at nature, observe and sit in wonder of all the beauty that is around you. And you could be anywhere and find that beauty. We find that beauty out here in the desert. One of the things that I saw yesterday was, as we were walking, there was a young girl, probably late teens or something, and she was in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. She couldn't walk on her own. Mm-mm. She's paraplegic. Mm-hmm. She probably has cerebral palsy. Yeah. And she waved at us, or she said hello to us and stuff, and we said hi back to her. But she was smiling. Mm-hmm. She was out in the sun. She was enjoying what she could. Yeah. And there are so many things that we can be grateful for. You live in a camper. Be grateful for that. Yeah. Some people don't even have a camper to live in. We're grateful for our fifth wheel. Yeah. I mean, we're grateful that we can still go outside and go for a walk. We're grateful that we can use our legs. Mm-hmm. We're grateful that we can breathe fresh air. There's so many things that we can be grateful for at this time. Mm-hmm. And use this time to go within ourselves and to do that deep work and to realize that everything around us isn't what is important. It's what's within us that is.
Mm-hmm. Dylan had some advice. Emily, I'm not encouraging depression or wanting to die or whatever, but sometimes it just won't end until you let the feeling run its course. But I'm on Facebook if you ever need to talk. One of my famous sayings is, feel it, own it, then let it go. Because it's okay to feel sad. Many times you're going to feel sad. It's okay to feel angry at times. It's okay to feel all those feelings. But as long as you don't let those feelings overtake you, you feel it, you own it. It's yours, but then you let it go. And the letting go is that most freeing part, because you are not your thoughts. Remember, what actually makes a situation terrible? It's not even a situation. Sometimes we're thinking ahead of ourselves. It's the thought process that makes it good or bad, because we judge the situation with our thoughts.
I remember something that I heard, a great hockey player, that basically everyone was in awe of his skill and his ability to know what was going to happen ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And to be at the right place at the right time. And he told them his secret. He basically said, I visualize not where the puck is, but where I feel it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I go there in
Mhm.
anticipation of it. And I think that in life, we need to really anticipate where we want the puck or the thing that is important to us to be in our life so that we can be there when it's there, so that we're not like predicting doom and gloom for ourselves, but we're predicting things that are going to be positive and help us to grow as people.
Yeah. So everyone's giving Emily advice, telling, I think Taco Forever said, Emily, but you have internet. You can access free cable from service online. And that's what we do. From what I've heard, you can find them on Google. I think it's called USTV Go. Also, Fire TV is what we use to watch a lot of stuff. You could stream Netflix, it's Dylan, and Hulu, Amazon, and laptop.
Zupet says, Emily, meditation with good music helps me.
I've been doing a lot of meditation since my father first started getting ill last week, and I used to meditate, then I stopped, and I'm starting at it again, and it's very helpful. It's very calming. It's just focusing on your breath. Every time a thought process comes in, you gently take that thought out of your head, because the whole concept is to be in nothingness, really. Just to focus on the breath, breathe in, breathe out, just relax, you know. Good meditation music, like Supet said, is wonderful.
Marcy says, so basically the ventilators make it worse.
Yeah, it can. Unless you're in that point where you can't breathe on your own. And then, as the article states, it's not even about the muscle not working. It's about not having that oxygen or that hemoglobin work within the lungs. And then you'll pretty much become toxic with carbon monoxide, you know.
You can't expel the
You can't
CO.
expel, yeah.
Emily says, I need to find a close friend, if you know what I mean. I've never even kissed anyone. I'm on my way to being a 40-year-old virgin.
Wow. So sorry about that, Emily. Taco
You
says,
can change that, though,
yeah,
Emily. You really can.
Yeah. Visualize it.
Can.
Visualize the person that you want into your life, and also work on yourself. Whatever baggage that you're carrying, whether it be from childhood trauma, you know, you were probably told you weren't good enough, and you started to believe that. You need to change that way of thinking. You are good enough. You are entitled to have someone in your life that loves you, and for you to love them back. But it starts by loving yourself first. That's very important. And Taco says, I always tell myself, let go or be dragged. Sometimes I'll say it 5 or 10 times and it works. There you go. Perfect saying. Let go or be dragged.
Brianna says, I'm grateful I can breathe freely.
There you go. There you go.
And Taco says, I would love to go. Well, I also started working out at home too. And she says, I'm grateful for sunrises.
Definitely.
Emily says, I'm 30. Dylan says, Emily, this might not make you feel any better because I'm younger, but me too, as far as being a virgin. Emily says, I would love to go. What? Right here. I would love to go back
to the desert and finish my schooling at Motorcycle Mechanic Institute. And what am I missing here? Oh, okay. And Taco Forever says, okay, ready to read that?
Yeah.
And
Dylan
says, I'm glad I still get to go outside and that I don't ever have to deal with people anymore. I can just take things in. I really hope that doesn't end. I know we were talking about that today. It's like, because in our little mobile home community, they locked the pool.
Yeah.
And you can't use the pool. So I'm like, well, at least you can still walk. Hopefully they can't stop us from doing that, but who knows? Taco says the lack of oxygen exchange. Exactly. And Emily says,
I relax with traditional Irish Gaelic music and the old Irish tongue.
There you go. And she says, I can't love myself with the body I have now. Whatever body you have is your body. And that's the body you were given. And your body is not your spirit and your soul. Unconditional love means just that, loving yourself unconditionally. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd be 6 foot, I'd be endowed with the things, whatever, but it's not a perfect world. And this is who I am and what I have. If I can't love myself unconditionally, how can I expect anyone else to? It starts with you. These meat suits is not everything we are. We're more than this. We really are.
We are more than what a mirror reflects. A mirror reflects the opposite of who we are. Literally, it does.
And it lies to you. And it's always luring you in for approval. Constantly. You're chasing something that will never arrive at where you want it to. And that desire leads to suffering. So stay in the now. Be grateful for what you have, no matter how little it is. There's always somebody else that has less than you. And understand that unconditional love starts with you.
Marcy says, controlling thoughts is so important for life.
Totally. It's discipline. Discipline that we have to, really work at. Because we've been told from a very young age that we're bad, we're different. And we start to believe the naysayers. And then we start adding conditions. Well, if I just have this thing fixed, I'll be happy. Then you go and you have that fixed. And you find out you're still not happy. It doesn't matter what you do to your external. Happiness is not found by fixing your external. Happiness is only found by going within and making peace with yourself.
One of the things that I was taught so much growing up in a Christian household was feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit, feeling the presence of God, and being, under like some kind of like sense of wonder and awe and everything. And the beauty of being able to really own yourself and who you are is to be present without needing a feeling, without needing to think that you have to smell a certain way or look a certain way or see certain things. And it's so much more, less based on feeling and more based on just being, and that's one of the things that I was taught was so important was, well, if you feel the presence of God in your life, then you're doing but that's not it.
Yeah.
Even in the stories in the Bible that they kind of give things away, because there's a story in the book of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah. He was like looking for God and trying to find and feel the presence of God and stuff. And he heard an earthquake and he said, "Oh, that's God." No, that's not it. Is it the wind? No, that's not it. It was like, it's this nothingness, this ability to be without any stimulation whatsoever, and to be confident in that blankness, in that empty space, and to know that that's where peace is.
And that's where God, the great I am, which you are all part of, we are fragments, is that Christ consciousness, that Christ meaning the anointed, and just being. There's no words to actually explain it. When you read all these books and you try to find these feelings, that's not it. It's releasing, letting go, being at peace with all that is, And let's see, Dylan says, music usually makes me disassociate, can't listen to it unless I want to check out a reality. But sometimes, especially recently, that's a good thing.
Emily, if you can't love yourself, how can somebody else love you right? Yeah.
She says, my spirit and soul is fighting my body. Your spirit and your soul doesn't require a body. That's old programming from the religious upbringing. They're telling you that you are wrong for being who you are. Who you are has nothing to do with your genitals, with the clothes you wear, with how you present. Who you are is who you are internally. It's spirit. Spirit doesn't fight with the body. That's all programming. That's mind and ego. Your spirit doesn't require an article of clothing, anything that you put on your body, makeup, whatever it is. That's all man-made, ego-based programming. You are who you are because you are. Nothing that you will ever do to be you can be done. That's all illusion. That's all man-made. Being you is just being you. It doesn't. If you have to climb Mount Everest and you have to follow all these protocols to be you, then you're not you.
Whenever this is being used more than this, this is your spirit. This is where, like, when people say, I felt like in my gut, this was the right decision, because in your gut, your spirit is never wrong. This is where you get the problems. The problems is when this thinking. Rational mind starts, calculating risk and reward and thinking about the benefits and the things that could happen if you did, the liabilities and stuff. But when you go with your gut, it's like your instinct, it's never wrong.
Yeah. When your happiness depends on what you're doing to yourself, what you're removing, what you're adding, that's not happiness. That's following a program. That's like decomposing from what we were taught from a young age, that homosexuality is bad, that doing this is bad. So we try to we try to change our world, justify and change our world to fit into this paradigm. And there's nothing that you could ever do. You can't run away from you. You are you, no matter what. And that you, whatever it is that you feel inside, whether it's a more feminine energy or a more masculine, whatever it is that's energy, and that's who we are. Energy cannot be destroyed and has never been created. It always has been. I know it's deep. And I know it's a lot to chew on. But once we finally grasp that, that's when we find peace. If not, we're like a dog chasing our tail. If I do this, I'll be happy. If I do that, if I go from point A to point B, I'll be happy. You get to point B, still not happy. No, I need to get to C. You're at C. And before you know it, you're just destroying yourself and really never accomplishing anything.
And then those of us, as we grow older, we take these childhood wounds of not being accepted by our parents, not being approved by our parents, seeking attention, seeking approval, wanting to constantly get that attaboy, attagirl, and as adults, we fall into that whole mentality. I mean, this happens when a loved one passes away, even. We think, gosh, am I ever going to get that attaboy, attagirl from my mom, my dad? Now I'm not going to get it. So what now? What do I do? And that's the thing. We don't live to seek the approval of others. We live in order to find that we are enough. What's within us is enough without anyone's approval.
Right. And it has nothing to do with your mind or your body, because it's all spirit. We are spirits having a human experience. We just became too engrossed in this human experience, and look at where it's gotten us. We're living in really interesting times. And I think this that we are experiencing is going to be great for our awakening, our spiritual awakening. And Pat said, eloquently said, Mark and Lynna. And Dylan says,
Emily, I can relate to that more than anything. It's hard for me now, but I'm really trying to just depersonalize from my body and keep my mind on enjoyable things.
So when we make our body our major focus. We're kind of saying this is all we are. And we're more than our body. We're more than our minds. You know, I know it's hard to grasp and to put it in perspective because we've been so taught that everything is material. But we're more than that. Because if it was all just material, we'd all be clones. We'd all be the same.
Yeah.
But we're not. What makes us unique and different is our spirit. Because we all have brains that are the same, you know, one may be heavier than the other. You know, we all have bones and skin, you know, in different faces and looks, but there's something very unique in who we are, you know?
There really is. It's a very deep thing, but when we do that deep work, it's so worth it. And for some of us that do transition, that's the very reason that we even bothered to take upon this type of journey, is because in order to do the deep work, we needed to do something that was out of the ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
the problem is that many people, once they transition, they take transition too seriously, and they become all about this project. It becomes a project. I'll need to do this, and I need to do that, and you know, and it's like in this project, we are thinking that we are building ourselves up, but we're actually destroying ourselves. We're putting ourselves in a lot of health risk and things of that nature. When all in all, it's all about your spirit. And I know that people say, well, you guys did whatever you did and blah, blah, blah. But it's deeper than putting a Lego set together or becoming Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. It's a lot deeper than that. And people find this out. People that have done everything and they're still there and they go, I did all this, but I'm still not happy. Because they didn't do the spiritual work. Because this is all about a spiritual awakening, a very deep spiritual awakening. And Marcy says, you really do have to lift up your energy, the inside, not the outside. You attract the energy you put out. If you're negative and hate yourself, then you will attract negative people or repel good energy. Exactly. Exactly.
and Zupet says, the body is temporary. You, me, we are eternal.
Exactly. That's why we can't take these meat suits so seriously. Dylan says, it may sound weird, but sometimes I kind of wish that we just stayed naked and clothes never became the definition of what identity and gender is. It makes no sense why it became that way. It's called commerce. You know, it's called people wanted to sell something, and, you know, we've become all about our looks. It's all about the ego. I think that is the fall of humankind, you know. And we could go really deep into all of that, of what created us and the whole concept. But know this, your spirit is who you truly are. When you close your eyes and you just sit in your own presence and forget about what you're wearing and what's on you and the skin that you feel, but just go inward and feel your true presence, your spirit, and get to know that. That is the most powerful awakening you could ever have. It really is. Emily says,
The only true time I am content is when I'm designing things. I'm currently building a 1/8 locomotive that has not been done before in my club.
so you're creating. When you're creating, you're in your spirit.
We are creators.
We are creator gods. So that's the time that you feel content because you are in your element. You're no longer thinking about your body not being right, about what's missing, what you're having. You're not obsessing because you are putting your energy, your spirit into creating, and that's who we are. I hate the feeling I get with my body, but we are all born into that. Feelings stem from some sort of feedback from what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you touch. Remove that and go within your spiritual feeling, that gut, that chi, that doesn't judge itself, that doesn't say, oh, I feel wrong, or this doesn't feel right. Feelings were created in us to control us, to blind us from who and what we truly are.
Marcy says, good uplifting message, Mark and Lynna.
And there's Darcy. Hey, Darcy. Long time
wondering
no
about
see.
you.
How's everything in Canada?
I finally got my...
Where? Oh, I finally got... Yeah, go ahead. Right here.
I finally got my better computer out of storage.
Well, that's
For
good.
you.
Good.
It's great. Yeah, we were wondering about you. We
Yeah,
were
I was like, that's
gee,
something happened to
what
him.
happened to Darcy?
Yeah.
I know Canada has different rules than we do, and
Yeah. And every day we're like, it's like every day you wake up and you're like, what else could happen? What's going to happen? You know? And I don't look at it as fearful, because to me, we are living in the most exciting time. We're living a movie, literally.
there's a pink moon tonight, you guys.
Yeah, I want to, after make dinner, I usually just go and watch TV, but I want to go outside and get some fresh air and look at the stars in the pink moon. I've never heard of a pink moon.
Me neither.
So definitely exciting times.
Says a pink moon is supposed to happen.
Yeah. Let me see
Interesting.
if I can find something so we can share a pink moon.
It's linked to end of days omens and a rebirth
Okay.
and increased seismic activity.
That might not be that exciting then, but let's see.
Oh, it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting to be in a season and an era
Oh,
of
definitely.
change.
Just hope that Yellowstone isn't. I'm kind of worried a little bit about Yellowstone.
Biggest supermoon of 2020.
I can't find the pink picture here for the life of me.
But they say that the surface will appear slightly orange rather than pink.
Oh, that's not right. Then you shouldn't call it pink. It's either pink or if it's not pink.
Stargazers should be able to spot the 2020 version in the early hours of the morning on Wednesday, April 8th.
It says unfortunately.
Did it happen already?
It says, unfortunately, the name has nothing to do with the color of the moon itself. Rather, it comes from Phlox subulata, a pink flower that blooms in spring in the east of North America, according to the Farmer's Almanac. So I would have been disappointed had the moon not been pink, and I'd be like, wait, am I colorblind? So it has to do with a flower that peaks.
Yeah, so I'm not sure when it's happening now. It says above the U.S., the event will
April
occur on
8th.
Tuesday, April 7th.
And it
It's
says
today.
here,
At 10:35 Eastern Time,
Eastern
2:35
time, which is
Greenwich Mean Time.
7 o'clock our time. And Brianna says the largest moon is appearing this week.
The phrase pink moon comes from the northern Native Americans, according to the Old Farmer's Almanac. They named it, oh, you said that, tourist flower.
Flower, yeah. And Darcy said he's been depressed, so he's kind of shut himself out and from the world, and without realizing it. Yeah, it's such a human thing to do when we're not happy or feeling disconnected, disassociated, feelings that, of gloom and doom. We tend to want to, just kind of hide in a cave. And I understand that, but when we feel like that, it's the time that we need to be around those people that care for you. And I want to say, Darcy, we do care about you very much. And like we care about all of you, we really appreciate you guys taking the time when we come out here live and you guys share this moment with us, this moment of awakening, this moment of revelation, this moment of growth and learning and, exploring each other's mind and understanding this crazy mess we call life, But as crazy as it is, it's a wonderful thing,
Here's some good news. The Native Americans believed They believe that the pink moon signifies rebirth and renewal. It flags that brighter times are ahead following the cold, dark months of winter. The pink moon is a sign that life goes through cycles. Bright flowers may die, but they always come back again each year. According to spiritualist Cherokee Billy, the pink moon brings the stability and security to crystallize recent changes and make them permanent and make permanent improvements. So, of course, other groups think differently, and they would be religious, but I won't get into what they think, because mostly negative.
So, as bad as things may appear to be getting, there's always something good about something bad. Everything's about learning, growth, evolving, going outside, being able to breathe, looking at the blue sky. That's amazing. I mean, that's as we were walking today. Yesterday, we walked 9 miles. Today, we did 7. And it's therapy. You're listening to the birds. There's so many birds.
I know. We actually saw parakeets.
Yeah, there's so many birds. And they all have their different sounds and they're singing. It's almost like they're happy. So
there's less traffic on the street, and the skies are bluer, the air is cleaner because there's not so much other things going on, artificial things that make this world more toxic.
Yeah,
it's really nice, actually. Like when 9/11 happened, airspace was clear and there were no planes flying, and that you could literally hear things that you didn't hear before because it was always blocked out by other noises.
And Soup had a good song to listen to is Turn, Turn by the Birds. Is that Turn, Turn? Yeah, that's a good song. Yeah. And Being Single, says Brianna.
Being single is hard during this pandemic. You think, who will care for me? Who can I lean on?
That is hard.
It is hard.
When you're alone, you're never really alone because we're all connected. Every particle, every atom all leads to oneness. We're all stardust. We're all connected. All you have to do is close your eyes, breathe, and feel that essence of who you are, which is all that is.
As restrictive as it's been to be able to converse with a dying loved one, I think what you were able to do last Sunday, was it?
No, today's Tuesday. He passed yesterday, but I spoke to him Monday. Was it Monday or Sunday? Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, that you were able to see your dad on FaceTime and to look in his eyes and he would look in yours.
Yeah, and he was telling me, don't fret, because he never wanted to show any pain or anything like that. He was always a very, hardcore kind of person. And he was just trying to console me. And I remember saying, I forgive you, because my childhood, there's a lot of dark memories. And I said, I forgive you, go in peace, old man. And I love you. And it was just, even though it wasn't person to person, but thank for
Spirit
technology.
to spirit.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy that he died peacefully. My sister was there with him. He had the best of care. He didn't suffer. He just stopped breathing. And he wasn't even in pain because they had him highly sedated, so he wouldn't feel the pain in his lungs. So, we should all be so lucky to die in our own home peacefully that way. So anyway, see, Darcy says, Mark, what was it you were saying over IG? You sent me a message. It seemed like something came up. And I was just wondering how you were doing, because we haven't seen you.
We're just worried about you, concerned.
So I sent you an IG saying, hey, hope all is well.
Elliot says, Mark, that is so beautiful. You're so strong.
I think I learned it from him. There's not much that my dad taught me, because he was not a very learned man, and he was very authoritarian, disciplinarian type of thing. But I learned to be strong by him, you know, and yeah, I could say that he taught me how to be strong. So no, that's nothing. You want to cry? I'll give you a reason to cry.
I think my dad and your dad could have been best friends.
Probably. It's that
because my dad would say that too.
Latino, yeah.
Eso no es nada.
That's nothing. You want to cry? I'll give you a reason to cry. Yeah. But all in all, you know, I think we choose our life here. And I know that sounds cliche-ish and whatever thing else, but we do choose our life and our challenges so we could grow and evolve, because it's all about spiritual growth. What do you think? That we were born to then build up our bank account, get a diploma to put on our wall, work ourselves to oblivious, retire to then get sick and die? Is that it? Is that what we're here for? I think, you know, if there was a God that created humanity for just that, what a simpleton type of God that would be. That's why I can't believe in this God of the Bible and these sets of rules and sets of things, because there's got to be more. I know deep in my heart, there's more than what we're being told.
And you know, even in the afterlife, the Bible is so explicitly talking about the new body that we will have, you know, that they say that we're going to have. And it's like any faith that bases its existence on any kind of body, when we realize and understand that we are not even matter, we're not even physical particles, we are spirit, we're made of other things that don't exist on this three-dimensional level. And when a Bible talks about, you know, hell and fire and burning and physical things that can happen to a physical body, it really does show me the limitations of this God and what this God expects you to think of who you are, that you are some kind of flesh and blood being that, you know, exists for his pleasure, and that you are basically
Marcy.
Oh, there's the pink moon. And that you're basically just physical.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
Not at all. I mean, that's just such a small way of thinking. There's so much more. I mean, you're born, pulled out of you're pushed out of your mom, you know, you go through all sorts of stuff, go to school from kindergarten to 12th grade, then you go to college and you get yourself a degree, then you get yourself a job and you're paying off your student loan, then you get married and you have 4 or 5 kids, and then, you know, you become a grandparent, and then you get sick, and that's it. Oh boy, what a life. You know, is that all it is? Is that why God made people? Come on, let's think. I mean, if anything, this awakening from what's happening needs to, like, literally wake us up and understand that there's so much more. So much more. So that was the picture of the pink moon. This little pink.
Yeah.
It's only 6:03 and the sun's still out here. So that's so weird. 6:03 here and it's 9:03. And Darcy went outside and took a picture of the moon.
Marcy.
Marcy, I mean, yeah, Marcy. Let's see here. I don't know what I'm saying. That is the poor loop. It starts with her talking about the head over gut and ends with him talking about.
She's talking about the fact that we're looping or something on her video feed.
Oh.
I tagged Mark and Lynna on FB, so we showed that picture. And Marcy said, I'm sorry about your dad, Mark. And what an honorable attribute, Mark, Zupet says.
Yeah. Wow, it's 2:03 in England.
Oh, wow.
Elliot is.
So you missed the pink moon? I guess.
Is it 2:03 p.m.?
A.M.
A.m. Okay. Why now it doesn't? Why now it doesn't exist? I'm not talking about God in the sense of God. I'm talking about the energy source that we are all part of. You know, we are something beyond what these bodies are. We are something beyond what any Bible could tell us we are. There's a lot more involved, you know, than just. So I don't know where you got that.
Yeah, we don't believe in the traditional sense of
sense,
God in that, but we said basically that those who do believe in that, they believe that their God believes in this physical existence of us, and that in the afterlife we will have new physical bodies, spiritual physical bodies that, you know, like, you know, they would say like Jesus walked after he got crucified and he had, you know, he had flesh body and he was able to walk through walls and stuff, but he was still physical. And it's like that limitation in itself tells you that all of it is a lie, because we are not matter. We are not physical, you know, particles that exist.
Exactly.
We are temporarily housed in this, but what is inside of me has never been created, and it will never die.
Exactly.
It can't be burned up, and it can't be destroyed.
Nope, because we're eternal. So Emma says they must have stopped broadcasting at the top of the hour. What are we talking?
I don't know.
I don't know what she's talking about.
She said we're in a loop or something.
In a
But
loop?
other people are saying that we're still on. A loop meaning that it goes from one thing to the other and then it goes back.
And we have 14 people watching, and we're seeing it right here.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to go ahead and end this because it's been going on for 2 hours and I'm getting hungry. And yeah. So thank you all for tuning in. It's still live. Is it not appearing as live still, or did they? I've seen a couple of times that it flickered. It flickered.
It's still live, guys. All a while. Marcy says, I don't know. Maybe something going on with Emily's connection. I guess. Yeah. But thank you, Emily, for joining us for the first time. We appreciate you coming on to our chat room and stuff. And we're on every Tuesday afternoon around this time, and we occasionally pop on throughout the week as we feel like. So if you want to hit the like and subscribe, you'll hit the notifications, and then you'll see whenever we do a video. You sometimes do one by yourself,
I haven't done one in a
talking
while.
about stuff. And
all right, guys, love you so much. Please be safe. Be present in the moment, in the now. Love yourselves unconditionally.
Yes,
you know, because that's so important. It's easy to love what's perfect, and we're always striving for that perfection, which doesn't exist, because the fact is that we're perfect the way we are.
We are.
So thank you guys once again. Take care. We love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Good night and be well. Stay safe, guys.